book outlining testimonies from the October 7th terror rampage that was temporarily banned by Amazon has now risen to the top spot in its category. 23-year-old author Alon Penzel penned the best-selling book Testimonies Without Boundaries, Israel, October 7th, 2023. And back in June, Amazon banned the title for a 2-week period. We now welcome author Alon Penzel. He joins us from Miami. So, Alon, thank you so much. First of all, it can't have been easy to write this book, but so important that you did collect these crucial testimonies. So before we get to the writing, why did Amazon block your book?
Thank you for having me here. Amazon was citing violation of guidelines, and it didn't state which guideline was violated. So we're waiting to hear from them what the reason was or what the reasoning for blacklisting the book was, but they didn't give us any explanation, and only after some press coverage, they decided to change the course of their decision. This is the book Testimonies Without Boundaries, Israel, October 7th, 2023. It basically covers the atrocities that were committed by Hamas and other terrorist organizations on October 7th, the atrocities that were committed. And Amazon, unfortunately, decided to blacklist the book when it was uploaded initially. Again, we don't have an explanation why it happened. We don't have a real reasoning why Amazon decided to blacklist it. They just said it was a violation of their guidelines. And unless there was press coverage, it wasn't there. It wasn't uploaded.
Certainly raises so many questions how personal accounts of the darkest day in the history of the country could violate Amazon's company guidelines. As you say, no clear explanation. But now off the blacklist, what kind of reaction are you getting to the book? So important that these stories are heard a year in.
So the testimonies in the book is very unique because the testimonies there are unique. Some of the testimonies have not yet been exposed. The public itself has not yet been exposed to the testimonies that are described in the book. We're talking about uncensored, unfiltered testimonies, unsanitized testimonies from the massacre, including rape of women and men as well, sexual abuse, children who were cruelly murdered, entire families that were tortured cruelly by Hamas terrorists. And obviously the comments are sometimes, the international community tries to deny, especially when it comes to the Israel and the Jewish people, the international community tries to deny what happened. But this is exactly why I did it from the very beginning. I already foresaw the worldwide denial that we would experience after October 7th. And just imagine what is going to happen in 50 years from now if this is the denial that we're facing right now. So I decided to come up with an initiative just after October 7th to collect testimonies from Zaka volunteers, from Nova survivors, from Israel's medical forensic institutes, and to create one of the most important documentations in the history, I believe, in the history of the state of Israel and the history of the Jewish people, so we can commemorate the atrocities for generations to come. We have the duty to make sure we remember our brothers and sisters who were slaughtered on October 7th. And this is the only way we will be able to overcome and to prevail, and we will prevail, but by remembering and commemorating our brothers and sisters and by bringing the hostages back home. This is the only way. And now with that important documentation, I am calling upon every Jew, Israeli, or any other rational human being, get the book, distribute it as much as possible. I'm calling influencers and any other organization. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is distributing the book, thousands of the book's copies to embassies around the world and world leaders. And the purpose is to get to the most important institutions such as the White House and the UN and the EU with the book, to make sure everyone is exposed to the atrocities. There is no question here. We owe it to the victims and to their families. And I'll keep working hard in order to make sure it happens.
And it bears repeating how incredibly brave the witnesses and survivors have been to speak out and share their ordeal. Very briefly, the example that stands out, that inspired you to keep telling the story. Tell us very briefly.
So basically, after October 7th, as a grandson of a Holocaust survivor and as a neighbor of Matan Angrest, who's still being held hostage in Gaza cruelly by Hamas, I decided that I have the duty to commemorate the atrocities. And so the emotional process has not been easy since October 7th, collecting the testimonies and writing the book, and obviously not to mention the emotional process and the difficulty and the challenges that had to be faced by basically those who gave me the testimonies, those who were there on the ground, who had to share the worst with me. But they were very brave. They realized the importance and the significance of such a documentation in order to combat anti-Semitism and worldwide denial. And this is why we were doing this together, hand by hand, as hard as it is to commemorate what happened, and so we will keep doing.
Alon Penzel, author of Testimonies Without Boundaries, Israel, October 7th, 2023, speaking to us from New York. Thank you so much, and kol hakavod, as we say in this part of the world. Well done. Keep telling the stories.
I appreciate it. Am Israel. Bye.
And on